Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the PocketPete podcast. I am here today with Scot Mac, Scott McGivern, my old buddy. Can't wait to catch up and hear about your life.
What's up, Pete?
What's up,
We've been
man?
trying not to speak outside, but now I just like coffee this and coffee that and sugar, and we're going crazy. I'd really like to begin with a blanket disclaimer, right? Because the disclaimer is something that I refer to when people preface something they're about to say with "I'm no expert" or I'm not. You try and articulate that whatever you're about to say, don't hold me to it, right? That's the disclaimer, and people use them all the time without knowing being political. So this is my blanket disclaimer for everything I say. I read a lot of the internet, okay, so that makes me an expert in a lot of things.
Okay, can't wait.
Just take everything at face value. That'll be the only disclaimer that I use the whole time. So just my disclaimer is that I don't know anything about anything I'm talking about, but I am going to comment on a lot of stuff. So that's all right. So now anybody who tunes in halfway through is going to be like, this guy must know everything, but it's really not that, all right? I read a lot of the interweb. So that's
Well, I can't wait to hear about the interweb, and I can't wait to hear about your life. You and I grew up together. We spent endless time together. We were a bit of a
trading
foursome.
partners and just kind of like there was a lot of years we spent learning a lot of stuff and grew up together, I guess. So
yeah, and our paths went two totally different directions. And
the word I use is unconventional for the life I live. And it's not conventional in any normal sense. So it's keeping your identity in that unconventional lifestyle space is a strange thing. You have to stay grounded somehow. I think the best way is like conversations like this with people that actually know who I am for real. And that stuff's really important, I think, because being an entertainer or whatever, there's plenty of unconventional lifestyles out there. And I think that living that gauntlet is important to like stay grounded. You got to talk to people that actually know who you are, who aren't going to hear your BS. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and I've heard you do some BS.
Yeah, of course, it comes with the territory of sort of being an entertainer. So
just for for those that don't know, and hopefully everyone does know, would I call you you're the lead singer of You're the Locust?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that would kind of be.
Would I say rock band? Is that how I'm
Is there
so
any,
unhip.
Is there any?
Tell me how.
Me
how, like,
too. There's a
what is
million
the-
subgenres, but usually when people ask you what you do as a musician or performer, you have two answers. You have the one answer, which is like bombastic and larger than life, and we're the craziest thing since sliced bread. And then you have the real honest answer, which is you just kind of say, well, I'm in a modern rock band that sings some anthematic stuff. That's as close to the point of what it is anyway. Okay. So that, but I know what you mean. Like, what is it that you do? You don't have to be hip. You know what I mean? There's no. It's where I'm in a rock band, I guess.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, but there's a million subgenres in music, and if you do your interweb research, you'll find a million different names: new metal, post-hardcore. There's 4 different types of metal music and all this. Just. Like what Billy Joel said, it's still rock and roll to me. It's the same crap. So, but just get loud and do the thing.
So, a couple of things that I'm super interested in is one, this is a life for you. Like this, there's no other choice, right? Like
I think so. We're gonna turn that off so it makes no sound. It's sort of like heroin. It's like an addiction. I swear, you feed it with all your heart and your money, and your whole life kind of gets kind of wrapped up in that. And it's you go through periods where you're not as creative, I think, as an artist. In those periods, you see your life get darker. So you just kind of relinquish yourself to this life of creation, and you get to know yourself through a lot of years. And I think that there's plenty of people out there that I would honestly say don't necessarily know. They don't have their own identity as a creator, but I do know a couple of things. Of course, the interweb has helped me with this, but more so life experience and knowing that there are few kinds of people out there that are creators, and you're being one of them because you're a creator too. You're look at what you're up to now. You're always the type to delve into stuff, and I think that certain people thrive on situations where they're like in a dark room, and you're just feeling around. And some people despise that. They don't like it. As when it comes to musicians, those are musicians that like a lot of pre-game. They want to pre-produce their music. They want to go into the studio and know what they're doing. And then there's musicians where you throw them in a situation with some people they just met. They shake some hands. They have a few laughs, and they go and they just start being creative. And when you're as a creator or an artist of any type, when you're working on something and you're not exactly sure where it's going, what is this? Is this a song? What is this painting going to be? I'm just putting brush strokes on a canvas, and I don't really know what I'm doing here. And then there's painters that go, we're going to paint a scene in the country, and there's going to be hills, and there's going to be some happy little trees over here, that kind of thing. And that's cool. Both mediums work. But I think that I've come to find I thrive much more in an environment where I'm just don't know what this is. We don't know what this is. We don't know where it's going, but we're just going to stick in that black room because I'm a preconceived person. I'm very self-monitoring. I'm very anxious. And anybody who I've ever toured with will eventually give me that feedback, man. You're very, very on top of everything. And the way that you get the best creativeness out of a person that's very on top of things is to throw them into a situation where they have no idea what's going on. Get in the room and make some music. Just put the recording mics on and let's dance. And you either embrace that sense of going into the nothing as an artist or creator, or it really scares the hell out of you. But I think that nervousness of being in that situation thrown in, you have to learn to thrive on it, and then you end up creating something that you never knew you could. So
let's talk about your heart. So like as far as I remember, you've always been making music, right?
Yeah.
But there's been times where, in high school you were doing it, and then there was a period of time like where it wasn't going to be your career, right? What was that like being a plumber? What was that like being something that was outside of the thing that obviously you keep getting pulled back to?
Yeah.
Because this is a tough business, right? And this is
yeah.
It's not something for somebody that doesn't want to live it every day, regardless of success or failure, right?
Yeah.
So,
very much. You hit at a really good point there. You can't do when we do in life in general. We do things, and we, without realizing it, the things that we do for others and the way we live our lives, we expect something in return. And I think that turning off that expectation is not a button you switch. It's a button that you have to keep going and flicking off because you expect things from the world for what you do for others. And when you don't get those things back, you hold the door open for somebody and they don't say thank you. Some mornings you're like, that's okay. And other mornings you're like, you're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, buddy, are you going to thank me? And you got to keep flicking that switch off, especially as a creator, because not everyone's going to like what you create. And I think that when I was creating less and not focusing on that, it just brings you to you become darker as a person, and your light kind of dims like a light bulb. And the truth of your life and your existence is very much like a light bulb with a little crank of electricity, and you got to keep going back to that crank, and you got to pull that thing and get it fired up so that light bulb is bright. And I think that everybody to some extent has probably felt this in their lives. There are times when they felt closer to what they should be doing, and they felt more positive, and they're giving out more energy. And there's times in your life where you're just like, man, what's going on? Where's my truth? And I think you got to keep feeding that. So to answer your question directly, yeah, you just get darker. If you're made to do something and create something, then you should be doing it, whatever that thing is.
So when you were not doing it, were you not doing it because you felt like there was something wrong about trying to continue what you love to do? Like, because your family is not, you don't come from a family of artists.
No, not
right?
necessarily.
So like, do you feel sometimes like you're the I guess the black sheep, or like you're like what you're doing, they don't recognize it? Like, have you gotten a lot of pressure to be the normal?
Over the years, that those they come and go in waves. I suppose, but I've been really lucky. My family really supports and enjoys what I do, so I'm very lucky like that. And I meet a lot of other musicians that I've run the gamut. I've been to every state in the continental U.S. except for Albuquerque, New Mexico. Never been there, but it's on my list. And of everyone that I've met, you do meet some musicians and artists that take a lot of flack for what they're trying to do, and they don't have a support system at all. Their parents don't care for it. Their friends and family don't really care for it. They're like not about what they're doing, and I give those people a lot more credit because I happen to be pretty lucky.
That's awesome.
My family and friends actually support what I do wholeheartedly, and that's really something. And every time I run into somebody who starts telling me that situation, I tell them to continue. And I realize how lucky I am to have a support, have the support of my friends and family. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and what I say to a lot of people, and like they're talking about getting into my business or just taking a leap in entrepreneurship or anything like that, is you have to visualize a world where you fail, and are you happy that you tried anyway, right? Are you happier during that path and failing? Because because there's really two paths. Obviously, the success path is easy. Oh, I'll pick the success path, right?
Yeah.
But you got to ask yourself the failure path, but doing the thing I'm passionate about, that I love, that I took a shot, that I can look at my kids in the eye and say, hey, I took this shot. I want you to be brave enough to do that too. Or the path where like you do that thing that keeps everything sustainable, but you never know about the other path, right? Those are the two paths to ask about, right?
Yeah.
The success path is easy.
Yeah,
so
you
clearly
hope for that.
you're happy with no matter what, right? Well, happiness is, so let's talk about that. So what does it feel like being on the road? What does it feel like traveling the country?
Sleep really. I slept best my first couple of tours. I slept better than I did in my bed, and I thought that was a strange thing. Because sort of when you're coming closer to fulfilling your purpose as a person, you feel a lot more peace. And I know anybody who branches out in their life and says, I'm going to try and do this. This is a riskier move from me, but I'm going to try and make this happen. You'll find a great deal of peace in that, I suppose, because you feel a little more at calm with yourself. You're doing what it is that you're supposed to be doing, and that'll bring you some degree of peace. Now embracing the idea that you might fail is certainly a scary thing, and but I don't think that, especially being in the music industry to the point where I am now, you realize that it's sort of like a tree that needs constant watering. So there is no destination for anything in life. There is none. And that silly saying, the older I get and the more life experience I have, I realize that these little idioms that were given to us and passed down through the generations, they have real meaning. They're summed up in such a brief, life isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. Well, what does that really mean? You're like, oh, I can grasp that. But then when you live it, you realize how much information that really encompasses.
Right.
And it is very much true. So everything that you do in life requires constant watering, I think. So there is no end game where you go, well, I made it. I'm here.
And in reality is there's no success in my mind.
There's
There's only a path. So like success, I think of Mario Brothers, right? And there's literally no end level. So there's no level 8, there's level 100. So like
exactly.
Some people look at me and go, wow, he's successful. He did this and this. And then I'm looking up and going, look at this guy on level 12, you know? And it's just about like, all you're saying is I'm on level 2 and I'm working towards level 3. And once I beat this level, and then maybe I'll lose and I'll go back to the beginning of level 3.
Yeah.
And then I'll beat it. And then people looking at me and saying, hey, I want to be where he is. And I'm sure it's the same in your business as well.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's, you look at people as if they've arrived at a goal, but the truth is everyone out there is just constantly, the people who do become successful at whatever they're doing, they're there because they constantly feed that tree. And as far as musicians are concerned in my industry, you'll meet I've met tons and tons of great bands and great people out there, but a lot of the bands that are smaller, they're looking for, hey Scotty, could you check out my demos, listen to my music, maybe see what you can do for me. But I'm working on my career. So yeah, you want to bring people up as much as you can. You want to do more for others always, and hook them up with a producer or hook them up with a venue contact, or do what you can for them if they're respectful and cool. But the same thing goes to some of the big rock stars that I've had the pleasure of hanging out with, that I'm starstruck by. But I'm not going to stand there and ask them for anything, because guess what? At the end of the day, they're feeding their tree too, so they're worried about their career. So the way that you approach people who are successful is also a thing, with respect. And everybody's just trying to feed that. They're all trying to feed their tree. So it is the journey very much, and that's what you figure out, I think.
So let's talk about the journey. So you've been on tour for how long have you been touring the country playing music?
I guess this is coming up on 5 years.
How did that even start? How does one begin touring?
Well, honestly, it wasn't the advice that I give to artists coming up is, you the minute that you step out of a basement or a garage, you're now a businessman because you're playing in a venue that runs on money. So the second you do that, you're not only a musician, you have to put the other hat on, and you're now a businessman, and you have to be to some degree. So if you want to, I think if you want to become successful, I mean, we got to go on our first tour because we filled our hometown venue multiple times, and we worked to do those things. In the
Is that what you do? You prove, like do you have to prove outside of there that you can fill your home venue, and then they'll accept you somewhere else? Like, how do you even like reach out to Albuquerque and say I want to play at your event?
Well, if you fill your hometown venue multiple times, that person who runs your venue, who brings the other bands in that you go and see, well, they have contacts, obviously, not to get too into the specifics of it, but obviously they're bringing these other touring bands into your club. So who do you think is the first person you want to go to and say, hey, I want to hit the road? You don't start messaging on Facebook random other musicians. You just go to your hometown venue, work your buns off, and you get everybody in there. And after a while, if you work hard enough there, well, that person who owns that venue, guess what they have? A Rolodex. I'm dating myself, of all the other people, all the other contacts out there that you need. So you got to work hard to get that. And we got our first tour through another band.
Was that a call that came to you? Like, what does that feel like when you
first hit the road? Well, you're totally green and you have no idea, and you feel like a total rock star.
Like, how
and
did you
a total jerk?
I'm picturing you getting a call like, "Hey, I have something for you."
It's very much
in
not
Pennsylvania.
No,
you don't have a van yet? Did you not have the stuff to get your bodies there?
Yeah,
all your stuff there?
We bought a van that was on my street. And that was we bought an old van that had very little mileage, and we lucked out, and we got our stuff together. And then we had our first manager at the time. We just badgered him to absolute death to get us something. So he had a friend who had another band, and it's my boy Troy Mosby. I always call him Mosley because Chuck Mosley is what I think, because he's a big black dude, So I'm like, the other day I'm like, you know who Chuck Mosley is? He's like, no. I'm like, really? Come on, another musician. So. Yeah, Troy brought us on our first tour, and that was really cool. You just feel like, it's amazing to travel, and that's when you get bit by the bug or you don't, because there's a lot of musicians out there who are what I like to call bucket listers. Everybody's so excited to go on tour until you realize how hard it is, and then you do that 2 or 3 week tour. You take plenty of pictures, and you got your touring, and then it's like, I'm not so hot on this idea. And then there's people like me who are psychotic, and I'm just like, yes, it's awesome. I want to just keep doing this forever. I never want to
visualizing, because you're when you're local, you look out and you see people you see people that have been with you forever, and then you show up in Ohio and you got to convince a whole new group of people, right? That you're not looking at any faces probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, like, is that exciting to like, hey, I'm going to show you people what I have, or are you terrified that what if I get out there and they only like me in Ronkonkoma?
Okay, so we're gonna rewind about 15 years ago to a handful of acoustic gigs I did, and I played here on Long Island. I think it was at Zebra Club, if I remember. And I'm playing, and I realized something, and I explained stage fright like this, or the timidness. It pretty much works like this. I'm playing my acoustic guitar, and I was deathly afraid because I have horrendous. Terrible stage fright. I'm absolutely the worst. And I'm playing, and I realize, wow, no one in here gives a what I'm doing. No one's listening to me. So I went from completely afraid and the stomach just full of knots. And all those knots just kind of came up into my heart and my head and just exploded. And I just started smashing my guitar with my hand and screaming my head off. And then all of a sudden, everybody was paying attention. And I think that, like, as a performer, if you're going to perform for people who don't know you, or you turn stage fright around from wow, I wonder if they'll like me, to I'm here. Hey everybody, I'm here. This is my chance to show you that I'm here and what I can do. And I only get my short little. I mean, what if I tell you to sum your whole life up in 35 minutes? Hey Pete, here's a crowd of people. You show them who you are in 30 minutes. There's a lot more to Pete than 30 minutes. You got to cram all of that of yourself into a little tiny space, and that's how I feel about it. It's like, oh wow, this is my moment. This is the only moment I get. So I'm here now, and that's where control comes from. You'll see there are a couple of performers that are extremely epic for this. Slipknot is a heavy band, one of the biggest heavy bands going right now, and Corey Taylor at the Meadowlands telling everybody to get on their knees. Oh, really? Wow, this is going to work. I looked at my buddy. I said, no, not a chance. And you know what? He did. He got an entire 20,000 person arena to kneel down and jump up when he told him to. And you say, is that ego? What is that? And then you realize what that is. That's his moment, and he's in charge. Somebody gave me a microphone, so if I'm going to hold the microphone, if I'm going to hold the torch, and I'm going to be in charge of this party, I better own that. That's ownership. It's not ego, and it's not facetious. It's not any of that. It's ownership. Like, here's the microphone, DJ. This is your wedding. Are they going to have a good time, or are they going to have an okay time? And then you were like, well, if I'm going to have the microphone at this wedding, I'm going to make sure everybody gets up and dances because that's my job. You know what I mean? So that's the way you got to look at it. Somebody gave you a microphone. You're in charge of this. So it's either going to be great or it's going to be piss. Right. So what's it going to be, pal? You know, and you step up to that. You know, if you thrive on that, then you'll do well, I think, as a performer. And there's plenty of performers that aren't even the greatest musician ever or the greatest singer, but they know how to rock a party.
I think that advice goes into multiple dimensions, too.
Yeah. You're going to be in charge of this ship? You want it? Okay.
Right.
Is it going to be good or bad? There's no room for timidness in there. You're in charge.
Right. So now you're on the road. You're doing your gigs. Tell me what it's like to be in a rock band on the road, traveling the country.
Well, at first you think you're going to make a huge impact with a couple of weeks worth of shows, and you know, you really don't know anything. You have sound engineers asking you for your sound check, and you don't even know how to communicate with them. You look like a fool. And there's an order of operations on the road. The bigger of a tour you're on, the more regimented it is. So what it's like is, I'll tell you what it's like. So let's take an example. Daytona Beach, Florida. We played Bike Week at Main Street Station. And they shut the road down at 8 o'clock in the morning for all the bikes. And it's a big party, obviously, Bike Week in Daytona. So we had to be there at 8 a.m. because they're shutting the roads down at 8:04. So there's a perfect example of a regimented day. They're going to park near the venue. Then it's hurry up and wait. Now you have 6 hours. You have to kill those 6-7 hours, and then at this time you have sound check. You have to load your gear in. You have to figure out the situation for your band, where you're going to stay, what your hospitality is. Hospitality is what's referred to as like your food and your alcohol and whatever perks you're getting from the venue, and it's a regimented day, and you live that day over and over again. So it's like get to the venue at 4 p.m., load in, have sound check. Get all your gear prepared, and then you have your set list, your show time, when you're eating, and all that. So it's a regimented thing, and it keeps you moving. And having a regimented day over and over and over again with a multitude of other people you're on tour with is just a great high. It's so much fun. You know what you got to do. Any minute of the day, there's something to be done. You know what you should be up to, and then you get into this groove and rhythm of doing this every night. And then when the show's over and it's done, you go. And I know I'm famous for this. My band is famous for this. We party and hang out and talk to whoever is around because we're just thrilled to be out on the road, and you're schmoozing and making friends. And then when you get home, what do I do? There's nothing to do. Get up and maybe if you're lucky, you got a family at home and you got work to do, and you can get right into another routine. But the first time I came home from tour, I sat on my couch for I think 5 days with the windows drawn. I was just so depressed. I was like, it's just nothing to do.
So I mean, there's multiple purposes to spend time with the people that watched you, right? One, you're building this relationship with people that are now fans of yours, so that becomes more solid. But also you're partying, right? Like there's nothing else. It's that or going back
exactly
to a hotel room.
Yeah, so you got to watch that though, the partying aspect, because you'll meet people that there's a lot of different type of fans, and some fans are very genuine and others aren't. They just want to feed you full of liquor and have a story. So you got to be wary of those people, and I've gotten better at picking them out because they'll take advantage. They'll just want to get you all liquored up and really hurt your butt. And then you got to think about down the line. You got multiple shows to play in a row.
How long did it take you to learn that? Like was that like your first year making mistakes,
Yeah.
drinking too much.
Yeah,
doing
definitely.
whatever.
Definitely. I was on tour with Starset, and I think I drank like maybe 3 weeks in a row, 20, 21 days. And the lighting guy for Starset I said I had a headache, I had like a headache like I'd never had before. It was like a migraine headache behind my eyes, and I was BSing with him, and he had been all around the world with everybody and their mother. So this guy was super experienced. And he said, I've been watching you. He goes, you need to slow down. That's your body telling you to slow down. You can't hang out and party with everyone all the time who wants a piece of you. And that was a great bit of advice from him. And then after that, I stayed sober for, I think, probably the last week and a half to 2 weeks of the tour. I just didn't bother. Because like, you're going to go out and play music. What do you play? You play music because you enjoy music, or you're there to party? You know what I mean? Do you still even enjoy music if you're going to have liquor every single night before you go on stage? Do you like it?
Right.
And then you have to realize, well, of course, yeah, I love it. I'm here to play music. So the heck with all that.
So you were drinking before too?
I think I was drinking around the clock for about 2 weeks there.
Oh wow! And that's got to affect
it does
performance, right?
It does. It definitely does. I'm lucky to have. I have 2 different types of formal vocal training. So that vocal training allows you to save your voice. Your voice is a fickle mistress, because if you treat her right, you'll get better results, I guess.
Right.
So the tricks and things that I know about how to sing properly and what to avoid when you're actually performing, when you're starting to build up tension and hurt yourself, knowing those things, I can be pretty. I'm pretty resilient. Like I've found, I can be good every night after night, because of those things. Thank goodness that I took my time to learn how to use the machine, because there are certain things you have to avoid doing when you're a singer. The way you speak, what range you speak in, even when you're singing, you'll build up tension and you'll feel it, and you have to back off. You have to use your falsetto. There's a whole thing about it, about how to use your voice so you don't lose it. So yeah, it impacts you, but I know how to use it the right way, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So you're the head of a rock. Are you the head? Can I say you're the head?
You could say that. The guys would laugh at you, but I guess I am.
You're the head of a rock band. You're the lead singer. You're on tour. I'm sure there's women. Are you? You're there and you're gone. You ever get a relationship? Do you ever fall for women in the moment, and then you have to leave them, and then they're on your mind? Is there, I can imagine there's a lot of connections you're making, and then you're gone.
Yeah, I've developed some longer term friendships and relationships out of those moments, but I'm not really huge on that aspect of things. Everybody has their vice on the road, and I don't think that getting too caught up in that moment. I don't know how to say this and be politically. How to dodge this one. Yes, there's a lot of people out there, but I'm not I think I have enough life experience to know why people are interested and why they want what you have. I know what it is. It's not, people don't necessarily know you. They know the musician and what they've gotten to hear from you, but they don't really know who you are, and that always plays on me. So I don't really buy into any of that.
So you've never felt any connections?
Well, yes, yeah. I have. I have met some very special people out there, and relationships that I have kind of ongoing with both sexes. So you meet some real people out there. And the more you tour, the more you realize how good the populace at large really is. Because we can get down on it, right? Everybody can get down on, people are assholes, But you really, when you go out into the world and your truck breaks down, your bus breaks down, and people are pulling over to the side of the road, and they come over to the house, we're going to feed you, and you just met these people 5 minutes ago. The world and America at large is full of really decent and awesome people that'll go to bat for you. And it fills you up. I think like the 3rd or 4th time I went out on the road and I came home, I came to realize there are good people in this world. It really fills you up. Except when you drive, back home to where we are in New York, the minute you cross the Pennsylvania or Jersey state line, whoever's driving the van is cursing immediately. People are cutting you off, passing you on the ride, flipping you the bird. I'm like, oh, it's good to be home.
Right.
Glad
You
to
miss
be
that
home.
at all?
Not at all. I hate it, but I definitely know when I'm home. You just got to listen. Like, we're almost there. Oh, there's the Pennsylvania state line. Yeah, okay. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah, I did find that when I travel, like people
get over for pulled over cars.
Yeah.
They move to the left
And they
lane.
wave to you. Well, I was in Tennessee.
Really?
And guy in a pickup truck was driving by. I was walking, and he waved to me. I go, how would I know him? And, and I realized the next person waved. The next person, they're just waving.
Yeah.
Just nice people waving.
Yeah, it's definitely different in rural America.
Yeah, 100%. So,
There's coffee. It's not bad.
Speedway.
You know what? I recently read an article, correct if I'm wrong, but dark roast versus light roast. Which one do you think would have more caffeine?
I would think dark.
You would think that.
Yeah.
It's not that way at all. Dark roast, dark, night, nate. Light roast, morning, bright. Light roast has more caffeine. It's a morning coffee. Dark roast is for your night time. I know it makes no sense.
That's interesting.
But I mean, if I had a morning to kill, I would just stand at 7-Eleven as everyone came in to get their coffee, and they poured dark roast. I'd say, "Hey, you sure you want to do that? Are you sure this is what you want?" Well, what do you mean? I say, the more caffeine is over here. Go for the light roast, buddy. I didn't know that.
You're stopping people mid-coffee.
No more dark roast. Put this away. This is for later. I don't know. And I'm no. We weren't going to do the disclaimer. I was going to talk about how I'm no coffee guru, but we're just going to skip that.
I have a 5:30 espresso every morning, and then
What's a 5:30 espresso?
5:30 a.m. I have an espresso,
Oh my god.
and then by 8:30 I have the second espresso,
Okay.
and then I'm ready to rumble.
Oh jeez.
So I don't know if it feels dark, but I don't know. But I'm fired up.
So speaking of 5:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
now there's marijuana is becoming legal, right? Becoming legal everywhere. So we might as well touch on this. About a month ago, I got high, and I don't do that too often. Right?
Okay.
The last time I did it on tour, I forgot like half the words.
Where are you?
I'm here. This is
You're
in New
here,
York.
guy.
This is only a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And the last time I had before that, I was on the road, and I was I was at not Top Fuel Saloon. I was at the Twisted Spokes in Iowa, and I totally forgot the lyrics to one of the songs. And our agent, who was also the promoter for the show, was in the crowd. And when I forgot the lyrics, this doesn't happen often. In
Did
fact,
you hum?
it hasn't
What
happened
did
in
you do
years.
how'd you play
Well,
the
I
song?
just kind of said, hey. You just pump your fist, and it's totally awkward. And I'm like, oh, and then if they don't come right back to you, there's a moment as a performer where you're like, all right, as long as I calm down, they'll come back to my little screen. But they didn't come back, and I fought my way through the song. Finally got to the next part. I was like, I just rolled the next part of the song, and then Freddie looked at Nick, and he was like, he yelled in the microphone. He's like, "This is your fault," because our promoter was the guy who handed me a joint. I don't even do that. So a few weeks ago, I got stoned, and I got really paranoid, right? Because marijuana is nothing like it used to be, according to what I've heard. Marijuana used to be something you smoke, you feel laid back, chill. Right now in New York, in this area of the country, because it's different wherever you go. I'll tell you that much too. In this area of the country, all the mad scientists of the marijuana world have been combining strains for years. This hydroponic strain with this, and the purple head with the this and the that, and they're Medusa-ing all these strains together to make this powerful cocktail. You smoke it, you need two things: a bed or an easy chair, because you're not even be able to stand up. You know what I mean? This is like not pot from the 60s where it's like, cool, man, thanks, I feel laid back. It's like, oh my God, I can't stand up anymore. Somebody give me a bed. So I was in my bed, and I was thinking to myself, I was extremely paranoid, right? Extremely paranoid. But I'm an anxious person, and we know that. I'm a very, very anxious, hands-on, control. So I opened up my phone and I had this epiphany, and I set it into my phone, and I've since read it. And a lot of times it's nonsense. I mean, it's meaningless. But this particular time, I think I hit on something really good. I think the extreme paranoia that you feel from certain strains of marijuana, your mind is like your mind's like a radio receiver, right? It's taking in all the vibes of the world and the cosmos constantly. And certain people are much more in tune to that, and certain people aren't. They're about their routine and their day, and they're very focused on that. And other people are more accepting to all these different vibes, empaths, people who receive the signals from their surroundings, right? So I think, and now check this out, I think the paranoia that you feel, the worse the paranoia is, that's your mind trying to block out all the additional signals that your mind is now open to from the marijuana you just smoked. So you smoke it, your mind went from accepting this much signal to this much signal. And you're getting all this from the universe, and it's too much. And your other part of your brain is saying, no, we can't. That's too much input for us. That's too much input. Our mind is too open. We're receiving way too much input from the cosmos. We have to block it out. We have to block it out, and that's where that paranoia rages on from. I swear, I think I figured out. I cracked the code.
So okay,
I really do.
I'll play. So what's the end game? You letting that go and let?
This is not something. In? Yeah, letting in the input from the universe. Let your mind expand and let your mind delve into thoughts about your own self and your surroundings that you wouldn't normally be able to wrap your head around. There's a trend going on now called microdosing. Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah.
Right? So microdosing is taking psychedelic drugs in small bits, very minuscule amounts in an effort to expand your mind and increase the amount of signals you're taking in and expand your mind as far as how, well, all right, again, disclaimer, I'm no expert on the subject, but where was I going with that? I think you know where I was going. I'm definitely not going to do that again anytime soon. But if I wanted to, try and fight my way through the paranoia and perhaps have even additional epiphanies and get even more from that experience.
So, but the epiphany was that you can have more epiphanies if you let go.
Exactly.
So you're wasting it if you don't embrace
You're too paranoid. You're wasting the opportunity to accept whatever it is.
You got the signal.
Yeah.
But you're not using the signal now.
Block that thing out. Block it out.
You've almost boxed yourself into smoking more pot. I think this is just an argument. You just
right.
I
guess I have to figure this out.
Convince yourself to smoke another joint.
To figure this out now. Hey.
I tried it after I think as a teenager, I smoked pot like 15, and then I didn't drink or do anything for years after that. And then I was in Colorado and for a Remax event, and I'm like, you know what? It's legal. I should try it, right? So I got in an Uber, and I said, please take me to the marijuana. And
hey, you did this yourself. This wasn't someone just happened to be there easily.
No.
Okay.
I said, maybe I'll give it I'd like to have the experience. It's a mild thing. So I Uber to a place, and I walk in, and it's this cold. Feels like a waiting room in hell. There's a block chair, and no pictures on the wall, and a glass screen where like I talked to some 23-year-old with a nose ring in there that's clearly had way too much of her own medication, and I go to she goes, how can I help you? I go, I'd like to try the pot, please, and she
would you like a menu?
And she goes, license, and I give her my license. She gives it back to me. She goes, wait here. So now I'm just standing there in this waiting room in hell. Like it's cold.
Bizarre.
There's nothing in there, but literally a wooden bench. And then I hear a buzz, and this guy opens a door. He goes, come with me. And I walk in. I felt like I was going to cell block C. And
oh, that's
he
terrible.
takes me back, and then
they need to work on their ambiance a little bit. Is what
there was no
ambiance. Here.
There's this beautiful layout. He goes, how can I help you? I go, I haven't done the pot since I was a young man. I go, I'd like to try the pot. And he goes, what do you want? He said sativa or Sakova or do this. I go, I don't do the pot. I need guidance. Help me. He goes, well, do you want a head high? Do you want a body high? I go,
Yeah.
I don't know what I want. I want the pot. I just want. So they gave me something in chocolate form, and I took it back to the hotel room, and he said, eat 2.
Okay.
So I had 4.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And
oh, no. That's you never.
Here's what happened.
You take a quarter of what they prescribe.
Right.
So you
So
should have eaten half of one. So instead you eat 4, which is 8, 16. Okay, continue.
Right. So here's what's happened. I'm in my hotel room, and I'm pacing, going, I don't think I'm high. Am I high? Could I be high? I don't think I feel it at all. I don't think this stuff even works. And then, that was my hour, and then I fell asleep. So that was my experience my only experience in the last 20 years.
So you fell asleep.
I basically
before
fell asleep.
It got bizarre.
I'm pretty sure I was stoned because I was pacing, asking myself if I was stoned. But that was the. But the actual enjoyment was being in that place, meeting those people, and being in the waiting room in hell was like that was.
Yeah, that was.
That
part
was
of
such
the
a cerebral
experience.
event. It was more so than the actual marijuana.
Yeah.
It was meeting those people and having them meet me and think, what's up with this?
What is this guy?
Says marijuana.
But that goes back to what we were talking about before. You're throwing yourself into a situation where it's just all completely brand new stimulus.
Yeah.
And you're that person too.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I'm gonna just throw myself into this scenario. Hey, I don't know anything. I'm here.
Right.
There's 2 kinds of people, right? And type A shows up to the party and goes, hello. And type B shows up and goes, I'm here. That's you.
Yeah, I'm a B.
Definitely. Yeah, that's. I think you definitely lucked out and you went to sleep before it got weird. Because a lot of times when you eat edibles, it just gets weirder and weirder the longer you're awake. Step 1 from if you eat edibles, step 1 is I don't think this is working. All right, step 2 occurs at about an hour and 10 minutes, and you go, ooh, I feel something. And then step 3 is about 2 hours in where you're like, wow, I'm high, I feel good, And that's when things get funny. You're sitting on your couch kind of melting into it. Maybe you put on some Family Guy or something completely without substance where you just can laugh hysterically. And then where are we at, step 4 or 5?
Probably 4.
We're at step 4, right? And step 4 is about 3 hours and 10 minutes if you took too much, and that's when things get strange because you go, ooh, I don't think I feel so good right now. I'm feeling weird. And then step 5 is in between there's step 4B, which is I'm going to get into bed and pull the covers over my head, right? That's 4B. And then,
to hide from the
step
world?
5.
Or
just so that hope that you fall asleep before this gets any weirder.
Okay.
And step 5 is the actual weird when you're laying in your bed with your covers on top of your head, praying for sleep, and then you have the epiphany that I had earlier.
Well, I'm glad I didn't go through any of that because honestly,
you're better off.
Yeah,
You're better off.
I was happy to go to.
I go to sleep around step 2 because I'm smart enough to know that I have enough experience.
I got lucky.
Yes, step 1 is I don't know if these work. Step 2 is I feel really good. Then 2B for me is I'm going to bed now before this gets weird.
Right.
That's
And I probably would have hated it because I do not like losing control.
Well, yeah, that's the paranoia. That's the anxiety that comes with being the person who is on top of your thoughts and on top of your actions and self-monitoring and all that. And that's that closes you in and kind of, whoa, we're losing control a little bit here. Right. We don't know if we're comfortable with this. Which is why
a lot of people actually don't think I drink or like haven't ever seen me drink because they'll say, hey, how come you never drink? I go, I do, but I drink alone. Because I'll enjoy a drink every once in a while if I'm not in a situation where I would lose control of the situation. So that's a bit of my anxiety. Is like I don't like being in a situation where I can't feel like if something went down or if there's a situation where I need to say something or do something, then I'm not at my best. So if I'm alone, then I could I'm talking to myself. I can screw that up. That's okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will say this: of all the bands I've toured with, either bands have their thing. A select few have everything. They'll just do everything and anything that's within their reach, which is fun. But there's generally speaking, there's pot smoking bands and there's drinking bands, and you do find that bands that drink a lot have a lot more turmoil. They'll have at least 1 or 2 meltdowns every few weeks. There'll be an argument. They'll get upset with a stage manager. They'll have some inner turmoils. pot smoking bands, none of that happens. Completely none. There's no ego there at all. Everybody's like, yeah, man, cool, all right, yeah. So you go on tour with a band, and they're like, just rather their advice of choice is maybe a little weed before they go on, and after they go on, those bands are always smooth sailing. There's no issue at all with those guys. So, I mean, just from that experience, I got to say which one probably is superior. It's probably that one.
What's so about I mean, you guys been together 5 years.
Yeah.
Has it been the same group for 5 years? And what's that like? I mean, how do you travel? How do you travel in close quarters with 4 or 5 guys and not want to, and then still want to spend time with them outside the bus?
I can tell you this. My perspective is, at first, if you're an outgoing person, they're again, if I can just put people in one box A or box B, a box A person is who they are all the time. So when they show up to the party, it's, how's it going? The box B person is the person that's there to perform. They're hanging out at the party. They come to the cocktail party. They're big and loud. I'm excited to be here. Hey, they give you the big pound, the big hug. Hey, you. Hey, they're pointing at people. They're getting excited, you know. And that box B person, they're a performer in their own right, because they're there to rise that energy. They're meeting that energy at that exciting event, and they're being around other people, and they're putting on this show because they're just so happy to be there. Box B person on the road gets really exhausted because you're not going to get downtime. You're not going to get 10 or 12 hours or 2 days of downtime before you go to work again, or you go back to the cocktail hour, or you go to the party. There is none. So box B person has to learn how to be more like a box A person, which is just be yourself around the clock all the time. And that's certainly an issue for me, because I am the bombastic person, and being around your colleagues, your band, people constantly 24/7, you can't keep up that social engagement, that level. You just can't.
Right.
After a week or two, you completely hit a place where you are just spiritually, emotionally, completely exhausted, because you can't continue to rise your level to people. And I think that's one of the more beautiful things about myself that I've been able to learn and understand from spending a lot of time on the road, is how to just be you and be okay with that. You don't have to perform. You don't have to big hello to every single person all the time, and you simply can't.
That's interesting. Somebody really...
It's a social dynamic, and to understand.
Somebody really smart once told me that they thought I was an introvert, not an extrovert, because they said the difference isn't as clear as people think. An introvert is someone that gets energy, that they either get energy from being alone, or they get energy, so let me redo this. So an introvert is someone that gets their energy when they're alone. They recharge their batteries.
Yeah.
An extrovert gets their energy from being around people. Like they need to be around people. So the difference is, like, when I may go to a party and I'm doing like you and I will often do.
Embrace it. We're the big hello guys.
Hey,
we're the big hey. We're the guys at the party who show up and go, "I'm here."
Right.
That's us.
Let me tell you this joke. Let me do this thing. I got this story for you. And then I leave, and I don't want to. I need to be away. My wife wants to chat, and I can't chat anymore. I'm done because my battery is burned out.
Yes.
And I need to be alone to recharge. So people think I'm the extrovert. No, I'm actually the introvert. And the reverse is true. Like, you see a lot of people that actually go to parties and don't say much, but they need to be around the people, and they're absorbing the people.
They absorb
and their
energy.
battery's
They're
getting recharged
themselves from that.
You know, so that was a really interesting revelation for me. It's like, you're right. I can't. When I leave a party, I'm done. I'm done.
I put on the show.
Right, show's over.
Show's over.
Right.
That's it. Close the curtain. I need
Which is
my
a lot
time.
of times, maybe you remember, like, I would just disappear from a party. Like, we were together. We'd be at a place, and I'd tell like 12 jokes, and I'd get the hell out.
Yeah. You and I both.
And I would just disappear, and no one knew. Where'd Pete go? His show's over.
His show is over, exactly. He wanted to leave you on the cliffhanger. Right. It was his best joke, and he's gone. That's it. Poof. Puff of smoke. So how does a person like that rectify being around people and have that switch on all the time? You have to be able to.
You got to turn it off.
Got to be able to learn how to turn it off and recharge when you're around people. So it's an interesting dynamic. It was something that it took a little while for me to understand, because it was so exhausting. And now after a while on the road, you get some experience, and that guy Now, if you're on a road to tour package with multiple bands and there's crews and stuff, it could be a lot of people. And you pick out real quick who the person is, who is that person, because they'll exhaust you. So the second, third day, if the doors to the club aren't open and you're sound checking and it's half empty in the club and you're getting your stuff ready for the big show tonight, and so one of the guys, the crew members from one of the other bands, comes in and goes, "Hey, how you doing?" That's the guy. You just simply turn your head and you just ignore him. You do not, because he'll do that every single day of the whole tour until he himself is completely exhausted. So look, the show's not on yet. Be friendly after the work is done, please. Right. After the doors are open and we're hanging out in the back and we're kicking back. Now, if you want to talk to me then, but don't talk to me before that. I don't want to hear from you. Right.
Yeah. I'm a like that when have to speak somewhere. It's like before I get on the stage, I do not want to hear from anyone. Like, Mom, I got my laser focus and like don't pull it away from me. I'm about to let it go, and that person will drain you. That person will take you off your game.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a lot like we did. You and I did competitions back in the day, and we did some powerlifting, and we went on these ventures, and you did a lot even more so than me, and we used to. The one thing I realized was when it's time for you to perform, then you go on the platform when you get the green light to go do your lift or whatever it is you're going to do. But I wouldn't find myself standing on the platform prematurely looking at my watch going, well, this is draining my energy away. Let's save up. Let's be calm, because the nature of strength is calm with short bursts of strength. And that's the same thing with performance also.
Yeah. When I won that New York City Strongest Man contest, in my headphones wasn't "You're the Locust." It was Tony Bennett.
I know, because the nature of strength is calm.
Yeah, so I would get fired up in the moment, but the rest you got to save that energy. So Tony Bennett.
What would be better for keeping my calm before the storm, so to speak, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Did I burn you out?
No. Yes. You know,
you have anything that?
What else?
You had a list of things you wanted to.
I wanted to. Yeah. Let's see. What do we got here? We did that. That's okay. Yeah, we went over that. That's okay. We won't get to that. So we're not going to touch on any politics. I'm going to skip that whole thing.
Please and thank you. All right. So, how do people find you? And what's the best place to purchase music from a musician? Is it iTunes?
Oh, you asked the question. Oh, that's the question. We're going to get into this now. I wasn't going to, but we are. The best place to purchase music, believe it or not, I think is Google Play.
Okay.
I'm almost positive. Google Play or what was it? Oh, Pandora? Google Play is a solid one. Google Play gives the most back to musicians.
Okay.
There's an even better one. I'm not sure if it's the Pandora service that offers music or Rhapsody, but it's there is an even greater paid percentage, but Google Play pays the best out to musicians.
So
Spotify
if we want to support
pays
you and other local
nothing.
bands, and you want to buy your music, buy it through Google Play, and you'll
buy it through everything: Google Play, Amazon, iTunes. Go right down the list. Just buy it from every source. Right. Easiest way to find me is Year of the Locust Google search, and do not get me confused for the book. I'm not the book. I'm the band.
Okay.
But
we're down.
Man down. Yeah. Actually, listen to Spotify.
Okay.
As much as I don't like the Spotify pay numbers, Spotify's an interesting entity. It was created by the major labels to sort of corner the market on music and musicians. But Spotify numbers are important, and it reaches a lot of people. YouTube is always good. For bands and checking out bands. YouTube is a little more geographically specific, so I can tell where fans are coming from. Spotify, you can. It's just worldwide, and really doesn't do anything for your touring ability and ability to bring people into clubs. But it's fun, and it's a decent service. So,
okay.
Yeah, yearoftheLocust.com. Visit my partner, volatilemerch.com, Volatile Merchandise. I just recently partnered up with John, and Volatile Merchandise is a great way for bands to have a one-stop shop for all their merchandise on the road. We do e-commerce for bands, which is a major pain in the butt for all musicians of at any level is how do you move merchandise without losing all your money? And there's plenty of other services that will take all of your profits. And John treats bands big and small the same way, get the same deal as a major band would do. So check that out and follow us on everything, at Year of the Locust. So,
all right.
And Scotty Mac too. That's me.
Scotty Mac.
I didn't give myself that name. Well, all you gave me that name, and it just stuck. So that's what it is,
all
man.
Right.
What it is.
Love you, Scotty Mac. Appreciate you being here. Great podcast. And download the PocketPete app so you can follow this podcast. And thank you to Remodel Rob for helping us set up this podcast studio. PocketPete podcast. And Matt, our visual for being a major part of this.
It's not up.
Right.
It's down. It's up. And everything's down. Okay, we're going to just put that right there. Later.